Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I flew home and back to Baltimore at BWI with this guy coming home for the holidays. He makes his home now in Los Angeles, California, high up in the hills out there. But he is a Baltimorean through and through, the former leader of Yahoo Sports, now the founder of the Postgame. And you can follow his journey out on Twitter at Katzmandu, and everywhere the Ravens Nation is, David Katz is usually somewhere nearby, and including on the seat next to me on the plane back from Milwaukee on Monday morning. What's going on, Katzmandu?
Nestor, always a pleasure sharing a boarding card with you right there in the A group on Southwest Airlines.
But Ripken got on before any of us, right?
He did, and he took the last row on the plane, which was strange. We can break that down another time.
Well, you know what's stranger than that is we actually got off the plane, all these Raven fans bleary-eyed from a 5:30 flight out of Milwaukee's airport. I get off the plane, I turn the corner, I'm with Luke, we're walking to our shuttle, and damn if Dan Duquette isn't standing next to us. And so, I mean, I had a whole, a baseball experience in the morning, and none of it had to do with Gorman Thomas and the Milwaukee Brewers, thankfully.
When do pitchers and catchers report?
Probably inside 100 days, right? I mean, February.
Coming up.
Yeah, coming up,
Crazy.
I guess. All right, we got a 5-5 football team, dude. You aired it out. You made it out into the cold at Camp Randall. You made it out into the cold at Lambeau Field, and got the bucket list thing going there. 23-0 shutout. I know we're going to find things to complain about around here this week because it's what we do, but I would take this recipe, and I know we all want more out of the offense. I'm trying to be realistic here over the next 6, 7, 8 weeks, however long it's going to be, as to what would put this football team in a position to be able to go on the road in January to Jacksonville, to Tennessee, to Kansas City, wherever it might be, and win a football game and put themselves between now and then in a position to do that. Dude, I saw signs of that at Lambeau Field on Sunday.
I was sitting in some very nice seats, very fortunate to have gotten good seats for my first time ever at Lambeau, and I was amazed at how knowledgeable the Packers fans were around me. They were breaking down all the plays. Their insight and analysis was really next level, and I've been to a lot of stadiums, as I know you have. But I will tell you, their comment was, this is the ugliest game I've ever seen. I've never seen such bad football. Oh, my God. And I'm thinking to myself, this is Ravens football. What are you talking about? This is what we do. This is what we are treated to, if you want to use that word in quotes, week in and week out.
But 3 defensive shutouts, right? I mean, that's like going to a baseball game and seeing good pitching and saying, well, where's the offense? Nobody can hit the ball. Well, maybe it's good pitching, And to some degree, this team's lopsided. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And I don't think it's going to be pretty when our defense is playing Jacoby Brissett and DeShone Kizer and Tom Savage. I hope it's not pretty. You know what I mean? I don't want it to be pretty. I just want to win. You know what I mean? I just want them to, through the holidays, give us an opportunity to enter 2018 as a playoff team, and then I'll take my chances with whatever happens with Joe Flacco in that path in January. And week after week now, I'm starting to stack up that they're going to stop the run, they're going to harass bad quarterbacks and neophyte quarterbacks, and they're going to go up in the air and take the ball away. And they've done that now in several games, and I think the defense is going to be the star part of this program in December. And those of us waiting for the offense to be the star, the offense is the supporting actor in this thing. If they could run the ball better, I think we could all feel better about a legitimate chance of them making noise and winning significant games this year.
We're one Eric Weddle overtime tackle away from likely winning that Chicago game and being in an even better position. But you have to like where the schedule, stacks up for us at this point. We have a real opportunity in front of us against what candidly should be very mediocre offensive teams coming primarily into Baltimore. I think we've got 4 home games the rest of the way. We have a real opportunity to take advantage of that and put ourselves in the playoffs. And if we cannot win those games, we do not deserve to be in the playoffs.
Well, if you're starting to lose,
we tend to do well once we get in there. We win at least one game, our track record states, and make it very difficult on the team in the second round.
Well, it was very apparent second drive with this kid Hundley that he made a couple of plays on the first drive, and that's nice. Then he threw the ball away, great. Second time down, and I'm tweeting at that time, Colin Kaepernick would make the Packers better. He'd probably make a dozen teams better. I know you guys out at the postgame have thrown that around as a concept as well, but boy, the backup quarterbacks in this league, and I talked to Coach Billick about it earlier in the week, they look ill-prepared. I mean, this is a guy for 3 years that has sat in every meeting with Aaron Rodgers, dissecting everything he does right, everything he's done wrong, picking his brain, having the highest coaching in the world, and then, to your point, goes out in front of the Packer fans at Lambeau Field and does not look like a capable National Football League quarterback that they're ever going to win with there. I mean, if after 3 years you can inherit Aaron Rodgers' team and you can't manage a point, and you're throwing the ball around like, across your body, across the field, blind passes in the National Football League against this secondary, he was just terrific.
He looked a lot better the week before against, I believe it was Chicago, who also had a very good defense. But it's amazing when you play teams in your division and you see them as frequently as you do, and you know how to scout them. There aren't a lot of surprises when those teams come in. It's really about who executes better. They haven't seen the Baltimore Ravens. They don't know our defense. They're not as easily able to pick up on those intricacies. And when you have a quarterback as inexperienced as Hundley, he's just not going to be able to do that. There's a lot of disguises and there's a lot of things that Dean Pease can dial up to frustrate a young quarterback like that. And I think we saw that. It was very evident there. The temperature, I saw a lot. I was right behind the Packer bench. I saw a lot of frustrated receivers because he was just waiting too long to get rid of the ball. Receivers had come out of their breaks and they had space, and he was not delivering the ball to them. They were frustrated, and everything just snowballed from there.
Terrell Suggs had said in the postgame that in the early part of the game he was having a little bit of success, and then they were getting to him. He said that after the picks, they felt like he was not going to get rid of the ball. He was going to hold the ball, and he did hold the ball far too long, especially against this defense on a stalking afternoon. But then you start to go down the mountain. You're losing 13-0. You are, if you're the backup quarterback, trying to make a play, not trying to be delivered another sack at that point. So trying to extend the play, that's kind of who the kid is. But that was a rough afternoon for him. And I think on their side, they look at our defense and say, the Baltimore Ravens are an emerging defensive program here right now with a secondary that we'll find out how Ben Roethlisberger does against a secondary. We'll find out maybe. We should be so lucky to find out how Tom Brady's going to do. We'll see what Matt Stafford does coming in here trying to throw the ball around with no running game to speak of at all 2 weeks from now. So, to some degree, I like a lot of these matchups. Defensively, I'm talking about in the way that if we stop your run and your quarterback, even if his name is Roethlisberger, has to throw the ball around a little bit, we're going to go up in the air and get the ball once or twice during a game.
If we can run the ball, take time off the clock, keep the defense rested so they can resume their stalking nature every time they get back on the field, push the ball down the field far enough for our boy Justin Tucker to kick a lot of field goals and convert 1 or 2 touchdowns a game, that's a recipe for success for the Baltimore Ravens going forward, especially in the regular season, and I think it could also extend into the playoffs should we make it.
He is David Katz. You can find him out at KatzManDo, out on Twitter as well as at The Postgame. Tell everybody what The Postgame is, David, because you're a Baltimore guy. I love having you come on and promote what you do from out on the West Coast, and I know you stay in touch with everything we do out on the East Coast. The web is a wonderful thing, right? You get to see your real parents this week, not just like on FaceTime, right?
That's exactly right. Well, the beauty of living in L.A. is we spend a lot of time in our car sitting in traffic, so that's even more time to listen to WNST through the TuneIn radio app. So that works really well for me. I get to catch up on all my Ravens information, Orioles information through you. So thank you for that. The post-game, look, I've been in this digital sports business a long time. I remember seeing you 10 years ago at these sports conferences. You've always been on the cutting edge of what platforms are coming next, and I try to do the same thing. ThePostgame.com launched originally as a digital sports magazine. We were partners with Yahoo Sports, which I used to run back in the day, and we've moved on now. We still have the magazine, but a lot of our work is actually working with leagues, teams, advertisers, helping them become more digitally savvy in this sports world that we live in. So we're almost like a sports agency, a digital sports agency. We do a lot of content, a lot of storytelling, and try to help all these brands and teams and leagues. We work with the NBA, for example, who's very digitally savvy but needs help on content production and distribution. We work with all these leagues and teams to try to make them better at what they do.
You can find him at Katzmandu out on Twitter, and you can usually find him anywhere the Ravens are playing. You've had fun here this year, right? This has been a fun year to be traveling around. The games, as you have pointed out, have been a little bit murky, but the trips have been good. And look, anytime we sit down here Thanksgiving Day, we're off. We're off on Sunday. You get the red zone it a little bit on Sunday. We all get to gather as a community full of leftovers and stuffing on Monday night for a game that could put us over 500, certainly into the playoff position that we want to be in. When you think of Ravens seasons, they're not all this satisfying on Thanksgiving. For that, I am thankful. I think we're going to have an interesting December around here, and the beneficiary really is going to be us for having a bad schedule. And we haven't had a lot of Decembers around here where I've sat here on Thanksgiving and saying, boy, this schedule sets up right for the Ravens. It never sets up right for the Ravens. There's always a Foxborough in December. There's always a Pittsburgh and a Cincinnati in December. This December feels a little different. I know that the hope isn't running wild around here for visions of being a Super Bowl team, and I don't think they're that team either, but I do think they're a relevant team, and I really do like the way the defense is playing right now. And for that, I'm thankful during Thanksgiving week, David Katz.
You can't ask for much more than Browns, Colts, and then Bengals at home to end this season. Think about years past where we had a Steeler game in there and usually a Bengals game on the road. So that's great. Let's beat the Texans on Monday. I think we got a good chance to beat the Lions. That's a game that we absolutely can win and probably should win at home. Steelers is the one game on that schedule. Of course, they always seem to get the primetime game, and they'll probably retire someone's jersey just to make, the crowd rowdy after a full day of drinking in the Berg. But other than that, this is as good as it's going to get for us, and we have a young team that's, I think, getting a lot more experience at this point. You got to love our linebacker to secondary core just doing a great job. And it's getting to that time of year where it's about run the ball and play good defense. And the Ravens are right there. And we actually could make a playoff run. We just got to get into the game, and I know that's what Ozzie tries to do every year is just either win the division, make sure you get in, and then he'll take his chances from there. And who knows, maybe Flacco, who has not had his greatest season, he always seems to snap out of it, wake up at the critical times, those fourth-quarter drives where he needs to get us down the field, or the playoff games when he kind of realizes everything's on the line. So maybe we'll get the old Joe back in this late run and hopefully early in the playoffs and actually do something.
Well, I'm hoping we don't need any fourth-quarter drives out of him against these backup, quarterbacks that we got coming up. David Katz joining us here from the postgame. It's all brought to you by our friends at King Discount Liquors. It is a big holiday week. Make sure you're giving the King a ring. Lottery, beer, booze, and the best prices in Baltimore. I spent a few hours over there perusing various liquors and liqueurs over the week. So I picked up some Malbec. I picked up some delicious craft beers, and my refrigerator is full to go with my pumpkin pie. So there, King Discount Liquors, give the King a ring over in Rosedale, just like I did on Saturday before I jetted off to Green Bay with David Katz. Also brought to you by our friends at DNL Window Tinting. That's 26 years of tinting everything. They put the shades on the sun, cars, boats, businesses, holiday spirit over there as well. 2 locations, Parkville and White Marsh. You can find them out on the web at DNL Window Tinting. Tell Jason we said hello as well. He sits with us at the Ravens games. David Katz is our guest. All right, look, dude, I want to peel back the onion here and give everybody a little bit of a scene. You and I in the airport. It's about 5:05 a.m. in Milwaukee. We're a little bleary-eyed. Cal Ripken's getting on the plane. You sit down. I sit down. Dude sits down between us. I'm not one for talking football at 5:30 in the morning because it's what I do for a living here, and I sort of consider it to be green rooming. Like if I'm ever talking about sports, I would rather be recording it because I am passionate about it. But you and I did not have any interaction on this Roger Goodell, Jerry Jones mess. And you've sat in these boardrooms at the highest levels. You know some of the personalities involved, including the orange man running our government down on Pennsylvania Avenue as well, who got into the fray before I could get on the plane with Marshawn Lynch. Imagine that. But either way, this war that's going on really is, I mean, the president has contributed to this without question, given the stance with the knee and the tweets and how much money Jerry and Danny and these guys have all sent to the Republican Party to nominate and pay for parties and soirees down off Pennsylvania Avenue last January after the inauguration. But they now have their hands full, right? And you talk about the journalism you're trying to do at the postgame, the journalism that's trying to be done in our culture in regard to Russia and the presidency and everything else that needs to be investigated. But I tell you what, Don Van Natta and Seth Wickersham have done a great job of investigating the back doors of the NFL. This has been incredible reading, incredible greed, incredible ego, and the future of the NFL really at stake here. These are critical days. And David, I know you're old enough to remember the baseball owners being at war. We would always talk about the baseball work stoppages not really being about the Players Association and the ownership. It's really about the owners and the other owners getting along. And right now, this is apocalypse sort of level that's getting out of it. I mean, just the fact that this is getting out into the press, how bad it is, probably means it's even worse than that, right?
There's a lot going on right now, Nestor. I've heard rumblings, not directly from NFL owners, but through people that know them very well, saying that there are several NFL owners that are looking to potentially sell their franchises. You know, these franchises tend to go on their families and stay there forever. There are some people who believe this may be the top of the market for the NFL, and or it's not worth the hassle and the public backlash where you really can't win on some of these issues. You've got this divisive president, you've got a country kind of split down the middle, and you're either on one side or the other, or you try to straddle that line, and you can't win on either side. So I've heard some rumblings there. As it relates to Roger Goodell, who is certainly not a uniter on a lot of these issues, but Roger Goodell, I've heard from people who are at top levels of organizations, presidents, SVP levels, who kind of look around and say, is this guy worth $30, $40, $50 million a year? How would the league be performing if he wasn't there and someone else was there? That's a job where you could pay someone $5 million, which is still an enormous amount of money, and probably get, within 5% same result that you currently get.
Well, there's so much institutional knowledge for Goodell to know where all the bones are buried in the league, right? And I don't know that they can just go out into the CEO marketplace and grab someone from another industry. I mean, it's such a unique industry, right? I mean, the NFL, and I think even Steve Bisciotti, the one thing, whenever I've sat with him, and you can go check those conversations out on YouTube, there's a couple hours of Steve Bisciotti and I sitting around just talking about these kinds of issues, that when he got involved in football ownership, it was such a different world from what he knew at Aerotech in every single way, that the adjustment level for running the NFL, especially if you don't have that institutional knowledge, and I know sometimes you'll say, well, that's good. It's a fresh look. It's somebody coming in asking the dumb questions, right? Boy, that's not a good job to be doing that. And especially if you were to take over the NFL right now, they are in crisis time, right? I mean, like literally, this is a big-time crisis with a lot of money going on and a lot of potential directions for them to go in. And they've already sort of half stubbed their toe out of the gate with this Chargers, Rams, Raiders, all that nonsense. But, that'll all powder out. 5 years from now, they'll have the Chargers in London or some other place. I don't think that thing's ever going to work out there for two teams, but they're going to have a new stadium there. They're going to have a new stadium in Vegas. So, to that end, but the CTE thing, more than any other issue the league has, the injuries in the CTE thing are, to me, game changers, and I don't know that those problems are going to be solved.
I think, Goodell actually got a huge bonus for containing the liability around CTE. His settlement with the players was a brilliant one, done relatively early in the process of all this news and information coming out. Some might argue the players shouldn't have settled that early for what they would believe to be that little. But just for shielding the league and the owners from that liability, Goodell got himself richly rewarded. He's also been the public whipping boy so that the owners can all be the good cop and he can be the bad cop. And that's a lot of why he gets paid what he gets paid. You know, I've had enough time working for one and or two bosses and trying to keep them happy. Can you imagine working for 32 bosses that live in completely different parts of the country, that have different makeups economically and demographically, supporting their franchises, who then whisper in the ear of the commissioner, who all want something? It is nearly impossible to make everyone happy. So,
well, can you imagine Jerry Jones standing in front of these guys calling himself the ranking owner? And everybody in the room saying, whoa. You're Stephen Ross. Like, I paid about $1.6 billion to be in the room, bro. Back down, you know. You're one of 32. You know, you're not the ranking owner. You've got 3% like all of us. And I can't imagine Mr. Benson, you know, hearing that. You know, I just can't imagine how pissed off Stan Kroenke would be about that. I mean, all of them saying who's leading and who's following. You got a lot of leaders there. You don't have a lot of followers in that room.
That's true. It's all Chiefs, no Indians, and they're all used to having the last word. Can you imagine what one of those board meetings looks like? That's probably the best reality show not on TV right now. But I think you're right. Look at when we were growing up, Major League Baseball was the national pastime. And then we went on this 25, 30-year run of the NFL kind of superseding baseball, being much more attuned to the television world that we were living in. It was less an experiential world, more of a television world. And I sit, and part of my job is to kind of project kind of what the future looks like and how does digital media and the distribution of content affect where the fans are going to be and who those fans are. And I've done a lot of research and studies around this with USC Annenberg's Center for the Digital Future. And if you ask me today to project 20, 25 years out, I think the NBA is going to surpass the NFL as, quote-unquote, the America's pastime. I just think the way they've managed that league and the way the league is, where they've focused on the name on the back of the jersey, not the name on the front of the jersey. It's not about the shield like it is in the NFL or about the team. It's more about the players and building them into superstars. People today are fans of players as much, if not more, than they are fans of teams. And there are certain leagues that have really put the fun and allowed the personality of the individual athlete to go to the fore. And there are certain leagues where they have tried to suppress that individuality and the entertainment value of the athletes. And letting NFL players do celebration dances now after a touchdown, great. That is an infinitesimal step.
By the way, I'm sick of that already. But that's the old white guy in me yelling, "Get off my lawn!" I'm done with the celebration. I really am. I mean, I find it more distracting than even entertaining. I mean, I like a good celebration, but the whole choreography, I'm just not getting it. I'm not feeling it right now.
I'm just waiting for someone to get hurt during one of those post-touchdown celebrations, and that'll be the end of it for all.
The Grammatica, as we call it around here, right?
Exactly.
He is David Katz. He is Katz Man Do. You can follow him out on Twitter as well as his web operation, The Postgame. And if you see a guy hanging around Pikesville or he's at your tailgate on Monday night, he is home for the week. Good to have you back. I will hope to get out there to Los Angeles when the weather's bad here and the weather's great there. But it's always great seeing you when it's about 18 degrees in Milwaukee, Wisconsin to start my morning. David, always a pleasure, man. Have a great holiday. We'll see you out at the ballpark.
Nestor, thank you so much. I look forward to hosting you. I think the next 2 years, the Ravens are out there playing the Chargers, and then the next year out there playing the Rams. So you have 2 reasons to be in Manhattan Beach.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. Set up a camera and you can interview me about the history of my life. I want to tell my story to a biographer like yourself. You know, with the Pacific Ocean crashing down with waves and volleyball nets in the and the Strand. I want that in the background. You know.
A taste of Hollywood for you. You got.
When I think of Manhattan Beach, I think of the worst sunburn I've ever had. Take care of yourself, man. He is David Katz. He's one of our favorites. Katzmando. That's Katzmando out on Twitter and the Postgame. I am Nestor. You can find me out in the buyatoyota.com audio vault. Katz listens out on the West Coast all the time out there. You just download the TuneIn Radio app. It's all brought to you by our friends at buyatoyota.com. Morning newspaper delivers to your email inbox at 7 a.m. each and every morning. That's powered up by our friends At Planet Fitness, getting in shape. That'll put me in good beach volleyball shape. $10 a month, Planet of Triumphs for some inspiration and maybe to work off some of the eggnog and excessive pumpkin pie, or for dear God, the pumpkin pie cheesecake that's coming around these days. So go low and slow here this week and bring me some leftovers on Monday night to the Ravens game. Our WNST text service will keep you abreast of anything that's happening that is breaking news. There's never any spam. It's always brought to you by our friends at Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. And, of course, Dennis Colatzos will be here on Thursday, each and every Thursday, driving you home from 3 until 5. And he joined me earlier in the week. And much like all of you, happy that we are into Festivus season here and have a legitimate chance to make the playoffs here for the Ravens. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. Happy Thanksgiving out there, everybody. Hope you guys are having a great week over the river and through the woods to Grandmom's house. Whatever you're doing to celebrate, do it safely. Do it in some fun ways. We'll see you on Monday night. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570 and WNST Taos in Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.